This week on the Wrestling Perspective podcast, myself and Josh Mathews sat down for a one-on-one, but we're doing things a little bit different. I really enjoyed this interview. It was so fun. I'm going to release it separately with its own thing right here, right now, what you're listening to. Then you'll be able to hear it again a little bit later, tomorrow, possibly, depending on when you're listening to this, as part of the Wrestling Perspective podcast with myself and my regular co-host, the Canadian Destroyer, Petey Williams. So sit back and enjoy this one-on-one interview with Josh Mathews. Remember, you can go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can get this, the Wrestling Perspective. You can get the commercial-free radio show, heard on over 100 radio markets. You can follow Petey Williams at iPetey Williams. You can follow me at Dennis77 Farrell. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy Josh Mathews and myself. All right, no Petey Williams joining me for this interview, but it's the second time we've had Josh Mathews on. I'm really excited. Kind of a sit-down one-on-one. He's making lunch. I've already eaten. So we're going to talk some wrestling, a little bit about his career and what he's doing now. Josh, thank you.
Dennis, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. You know, here, I want to start this off with a question I've always wanted to ask you. And when we do interviews, we tend to stay away from guys past in different companies. But you've taken a Stone Cold Stunner and, commentaried a WrestleMania. And I've always wanted to pick your brain about how nerve-wracking that was.
It was so quick that, I didn't know about it till the day of, and we got things going, and I stood there with Steve, and I talked to him about it for a few minutes, and, he said something like, just go to your knees, and I said, are you okay with that? Just lean over, and he was like, yeah, man, like Chris Benoit used to take it that way. That's totally cool. And then, the next thing I knew, it was happening, and that was the end of it.
So I just had to fanboy out for a second because every time I see you backstage, I've always wanted to go, man, I want to ask Josh that, but I know how some guys are about talking about the past. But let's talk about now. Impact Wrestling, you've been there since 2014. You've seen a lot of regimes come and go. And from what I've been around, this has been one of the more wrestler-friendly regimes that's been in TNA/Impact.
I mean, it really is. And when I started here, and it's funny because I don't know if I'm here if everything didn't go the way that it did. John Gaborik was in charge when I first came here, along, of course, with Dixie Carter. And when I found out on that morning that I was, the WWE and I were parting ways after 13 years, I immediately called Tazz. And Impact was running then TNA was running shows in New York, and he was, how quickly can you get to Manhattan? And I was a 45-minute train right away. So, I went down and basically, losing one opportunity at WWE, the other one opened up that day. It was literally an offer and a handshake agreement that day with Impact and with TNA. And then, I had to sit out my 90 days, obviously. And from there, I moved to Nashville and got started in the office right away. So I don't know if without that regime in place at the time, if I'm still here, or even brought in if it were to happen today. So it's really such a weird path that it's been on. And I obviously didn't know Scott D'Amore or anybody like that when I came to TNA originally. And, they're here, and I think through my hard work and efforts and all of that stuff, I'm still here, which is great.
I think right now what you're doing is the best work of your career. Not saying anything else about anywhere else you've done, but I've noticed with you and Don, you guys have this chemistry that I've not seen you have with anybody else, and you've had amazing co-hosts. But watching you with Don, I really have fallen in love with the Josh Mathews on commentary. Is that natural? Did you guys have to work on that kind of chemistry?
No, and it's so funny. The first show we did was a pay-per-view, and we got Don, and he just said, "Imagine how good we'll be in 6 months." And from there, it's just sort of, I think we both have similar personalities. The hardest thing I always tell people when you work with a new partner is finding out, when they're going to talk and when you're going to talk. Once you get that part kind of figured out, like the cadence of, things they want to say, what they want to do, The rest, if you have chemistry, just sort of falls into place. And I think for Don and I, it's there. And knowing Don's position in the company, I always put that caveat on saying this. I haven't worked with anybody else that I've enjoyed as much as I do working with Don. And I truly mean that. If he were literally just my color colleague, color commentary colleague, easy for me to say, if that's the position we were all in, I would still feel that way about Don.
Now, I've interviewed a million people, whether it's with ESPN or Fox Sports, doing all that stuff. And I notice when I interview people, I tend to try to take on the personality of the guy. If he's low key, I keep the interview low key. If he's high energy, you try to reel him in and go with the flow. Do you find yourself, whether it's next to Tazz or next to Don Callis, do you find yourself changing your personality to either fit or go with a Tazz or a Don Callis?
It's a good question, and honestly, I don't think I've ever really thought about it that way. I feel like I try to complement I feel like I could sit down next to anybody and help them. This is a novice commentator or someone as seasoned as Don or Tazz, and figure out what I need to do to either help them, bring out something in them, ask them a bunch of questions. So in that aspect, yeah, I don't think I ever changed my actual personality, but as it relates to, what I feel I can bring out of my partner in crime, then absolutely. With Sanjay Dutt, I knew I didn't have to call a lot of moves. Sanjay liked to call the moves, which is cool. That's fine. I don't need to do that. With Don, it's a little more psychological, where I can ask him questions about where the athletes are feeling, how they're doing. I mean, Tazz was a former world champion, so with him it was break down holds, it was break down different things. So I try to bring out the best aspects of whoever I'm working with.
When I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of fans, and your name comes up, a lot of times, and this will ultimately be a compliment, so go with me down this road. A lot of times they're like, Josh Mathews, I don't get it. And then I sit and tell them about everything I've seen. You're right there when people take pictures and you help them do it. You do everything digital. You are nothing really passes through Impact unless it touches Josh Mathews' hands. And after I explain a lot of this stuff to people, they'll go and watch you, and then they come back and go, you know what? I get it now. How hard is it to have your hands in just about every single thing Impact does, and then still have to go out there and do your primary job?
Well, that part's actually not that bad because, I know these storylines, I know these characters, I eat, sleep, and breathe Impact Wrestling 24 hours a day. So that part's easy. Sitting down at the end of the night, Don and I always joke about this, that it's like the hard work's over. And now we can sit here, someone's going to bring us a couple sodas, and we're just going to talk about wrestling for a few hours. So that part's actually the easiest part. And then during the day, I mean, it's not hard to do the work. It's hard to, I've seen so many people come and go that think that they can do what I do better than I do from a behind-the-scenes perspective. And maybe you can, but you can't consistently deliver. You have to stay engaged 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when I'm on vacation with my family in Disneyland and getting looked at by my wife for answering emails and texts. You have to stay engaged or you will get passed by, without a question.
They have a bunch of Twitter questions. One is from God of Sports, who wants to know, what are your current backstage roles? Because this, once again, going back to this question, I've seen you do everything, but yet I can't tell people, yeah, he's part of creative, he's a production, he does this, but you do everything.
I mean, outside of creative, I think so. We have a lean team, and people have left, and it's been one of those deals where you just have to pick up the pieces. And the people that we do have around, they're the guys in Nashville. I mean, they work so hard, countless hours, longer hours than I work, because they get started earlier and they have to shoot later than I do. So those guys are the heroes, really, that do so much. The guys on creative that work so hard too, and it's just,
Do you have any interest in jumping into creative?
My interest in creative, and I laugh because Scott tells me when I have some drinks in me, I want to be on creative, but when I'm not, I don't want to be on creative. I like having a hand in the our specials, our Twitch specials and our Impact Plus specials, and that's pretty much right now as far as I would like to go. with everything else that I need to be taken care of. Scott and I work on the talent that we're going to bring in. We work on the cards for those Twitch and Impact Plus specials. And then they go through creative and they go through the cycle and they sort of fine tune them. But really, like, those shows have been so much fun because from beginning to middle to end, I get to work on those. So if something goes wrong, my fault. I have nightmares now. They always say, like, the wrestler nightmare that you're putting your boots on as your music's playing. My nightmares are that I have forgotten to order ring skirts for Rebellion or for Slammiversary or for Code Red, and we're not going to have ring skirts at these shows. Like, those are my nightmares. So it's a lot of fun. And really, in 19 years, this July will be 19 consecutive years that I've been earning a living in professional wrestling. And, I've gotten to do everything. I get to work in marketing. I get to work in merchandise design. I get to work with creative on certain things. I get to help at TV. So, to me, it's like, I've built this knowledge base of production and marketing, and it's just it's been a fun ride.
I have to bring up your wife, Madison Rayne, and from the aspect of I've sat and watched wrestling shows with Petey Williams' wife, and I see the concern and the look on her face whenever he does a move, which she's not a wrestling fan. You are a wrestling husband now. When you see her in the ring, do you get that sense of worried? Do you cringe when you see something? You go, "Ooh, that didn't look right. I hope she's okay." How do you separate, husband Josh from commentator Josh when you're watching your wife in the ring?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough because the girls in 2019, they hit harder, they run faster, they want to do amazing moves. They're capable of doing amazing moves. And, she is a veteran and she's been doing this for a while. And she, obviously it's one of those deals where keep up or move aside. And, I think she has proven that she can keep up with the Tessa Blanchards of today. And when recently on Impact, Tessa joined us for commentary for a Madison versus Taya Valkyrie match, and literally multiple times during the match, Tessa was squeezing my arm, like when Taya was hitting her, and like feeling the pain through me. It's really hard. So when I do see, okay, she's got the 5th match on the show. Once that match is over, I'll send a text. Is everything okay? That looked like it hurt. I get the yeah, it was all good. Everything's fine. Then the sigh of relief comes in, and the proud moments can sort of take over from there.
What is her schedule like? Because she's a mother, a wife. You both are on the road a lot, working for the same companies. I see her posting a lot of dates. How do you guys work that out into your schedules?
Yeah, and we have 2 dogs, and she goes to college.
Wow.
It's a balancing act for sure, man. Like, it really is. The good thing is now we're home for a month, right? Like, we just got done with 4 days of TV, maybe 5. We went from Toronto to Philly to New York, and now we're home until June 5th, I believe. So it's we've got basically all of May at home. So our schedules, it's certainly a balancing act, and we wake up and I start working pretty early in the morning. We'll eat breakfast together, take the dogs out. I'll go to the office for a little bit, my office upstairs at home, and work. And then, we go to the gym together, and then it's come home and work for the rest of the day. And then we sort of, regroup, when the day's over and the kid's home from school, and, you got to put different hats on. So, it's fun, it's challenging, but at the end of the night, when there's a ball game on or something, I am very much looking forward to a glass of wine and relaxing. And it's funny too because Scott D'Amore, we talk pretty much every day, either via text or email or by phone, and he knows when, like, I'm not going to answer or when I won't respond. And it's usually like right around dinner time and for a couple hours after, and then I'll dial back into work for a little bit until about 10 or 11, and then I'll shut it down.
All right, for my one morning campy radio question routine, you're trained in wrestling. You talked about it last time you were on with Petey and myself. Your wife's a wrestler. How much dialogue have you guys had about doing a mixed tag team match together?
None. I mean, it's funny because, I guess, like, you get that bug to wrestle, but I just had a bug to be in the wrestling business. Like, I think when it's all said and done, and I went through the toughen up process, And when that ended and I did the independents for a year, call it, while I was back in college, I hated it. You know, I was on the road, I was alone, I was driving. I'm barely 20, I'm 20 years old at this point. And I realized very quickly that this isn't, because I did wrestling backwards, as I tell people all the time. Like, I went from the biggest company in the world to now wrestling on the independents, and I didn't have that hunger to get back to WWE as a wrestler. Like, I just didn't have it, and I knew I didn't have it. So when the opportunity came up to be an announcer, you know, I thought I can be a part of the whole show, and I can, you know, talk about these athletes. Yeah, sign me up for that.
So I know you have a time restriction here, but I gotta say thank you because
no, I'm good, man. I'm good. Let's talk for as long as you want.
Because last week I'd like to go through people's tweets and see what they're tweeting about, and I saw you start tweeting about this app, and I don't know how much you can talk about this, but you tweeted about doing trivia at this app called was it Ringside App? I went downloaded
Ringside Wrestling.
Ringside Wrestling. Thank you. I went there, downloaded it. And I have been on this app like crazy. And look, I'm not getting paid to talk about this. This is not an advertisement. But when I find something I truly like or enjoy, I want to tell people about it. And I've got a regular account. There's 3 different sections right there now. There's old school wrestling fans. There's indie wrestling fans. There's the In the Ring tab. And I think that's where you are doing your trivia. But talk to me about this app, because there's chat rooms and live videos and independent matches. And I think this app is going to start gaining steam.
And I hope it does. It's funny how this all started. The company, the parent company, is called Kiswe Mobile, and it's KISWE. And if you look up Kiswe Mobile, they're heavily involved in apps, applications. They work with the NBA, and fan engagement really is a big part of what they do. And they approached Impact, and just like I do with anybody that approaches us about doing stuff, you know, I took a first phone call and, you know, sort of talked to the guys behind the scenes, and I really liked what they were saying and what they were doing, but I couldn't give them really what they wanted because it was content driven, and our content obviously you know, goes all over the world, and these matches are a part of shows and things like that. So long story short, I couldn't give them the content they were looking for, but I wanted to help them because I liked them so much. So I put them in touch with a couple of the different independents, Wrestle Pro, and a few others, and I think there's some things happening behind the scenes that they're working with a couple others that I suggested. And then the idea was then they said, what about trivia? And I said, well, we could definitely do trivia. And it actually started with Johnny Impact. He was the first host. And Johnny's schedule is one that he's busy a lot. And I said, look, if you're not available, I'll just do the trivia for you those weeks. And it ended up, I just took over the trivia completely from Johnny due to his schedule. And I have a lot of fun with it. It's every Thursday night at 7:30, and it's all free. You just have to download the Ringside Wrestling app in your app store, and you can play along. And there's, you know, points that you can win every week. In the games and stuff, and there's a lot of other things happening there, and you can chat with wrestling fans. I mean, ultimately, this is going to be the destination for wrestling fans, and I wish those guys nothing but success. You know, I help out where I can, when I can. You know, my schedule is also, you know, kind of busy, and you know, so I try to help them out as much as humanly possible. And I really hope that, you know, they're such a great group of people that I hope that they, you know, I've got my wife involved with them now for a little while as an influencer. So I just really hope that they succeed.
Like right now on the app, I'm on the app, and it'll probably change depending on when people hear this show and it's uploaded. They're playing a Cody Rhodes versus Brian Cage match. You click on it, and there's a chat room where people are talking about that and other things, and you don't find that in many chats. You have to go to, like, Reddit, where you'll get ostracized for asking a stupid question. You go to this app, and it's smooth, and people are nice, and they want people there.
Yeah, I mean, really, and that's what it ultimately is. And I think there's some things in the works that they're working on to make the fan engagement even better, including, like, you know, I suggested, like, what about uploading photos if I'm at a wrestling show? Like, can I upload photos to the chat? Can I do other things with videos? And I think all that stuff's kind of in development. So as long as, you know, wrestling fans are finding Ringside Wrestling, and that's why I'm glad we're talking about it a little bit here today, because I do think it's a place where fans can go and be a part of the community.
Look, I'm not getting paid to say this. You're not getting paid to say this. So when we're talking about something this long on an interview, it has to be good, because not a lot of podcasts will talk about outside things for free.
And that's true, too. And I've been asked by many people, like, are you getting paid for this? And it's like, well, no. But I have fun with it. Look, the trivia, I go downstairs in my basement. I have a green screen down there and a ring light, and I shoot it. It takes me about 7 minutes. They do everything behind the scenes. They edit it. They put it together. They put all those cool graphics to it. And I just have a fun place to go and kind of escape for a few minutes each week to talk about wrestling and wrestling trivia and play host. And at the end of the day, that's kind of my bread and butter as a host. So if I'm not updating ImpactWrestling.com, I get to go downstairs and have some fun and do some trivia.
Last tweet we'll get to before I let you go. This one comes from Madison Rayne. Josh Mathews probably should talk about what a babe his wife is. I don't know who she is. I'm not following her, but apparently this Madison Rayne woman wants to hear about your wife more.
I mean, what else is there to say that I haven't already said about her? She's, we just had a great Mother's Day weekend, relaxing, had a great dinner, taught the kid how to ride a bike, which was probably the best gift you could give to mom. And we saw the Pikachu detective movie, which was surprisingly entertaining for someone who's not a Pokemon person.
Neither am I. I was forced to see it. My 10-year-old drugged me, and I had to go see
it. Was okay, right?
It was, you know what? It was better than I thought, because I grew up before. I'm 41, so I missed the whole Pokemon craze. Thank God. But I sat there and thoroughly enjoyed the graphics, the dialogue. I mean, from top to bottom, you don't have to be a Pokemon fan to know that movie.
Yeah, it was funny. I will admit that I fell asleep towards the end a little bit there, but I woke up just as Ryan Reynolds emerged as a real human being, and dude, we have a great movie theater. Like, it's one of those lounge, you can recline the chair. Like, it's hard to not fall asleep in that theater.
Where were those when we were kids, right?
Oh my God, man! I used to go to movies every week when I was a kid, and they were horrible. Like, the seating was horrible, the lighting was horrible. Now you've got amazing sound, and when I lived in Nashville, I went to the IMAX a lot with Bob Ryder. We saw everything. We saw Jurassic World, so many movies in that IMAX. But this one, it's great. It's the lounger, and I fall asleep, and everyone's happy.
And finally, before we wrap this up, what more innovative things can we see out of Impact Wrestling? You guys have. And I tell you, there was one, and it probably lasted about a month, where you made Impact feel like it was like Georgia Championship Wrestling on a Saturday night. It was really cool. You showed a lot of Impact talent at indie shows. I really enjoyed that. And then it was like you and Sanjay, or you and Don, I believe, behind a green screen introducing the shows, which I really enjoyed that feel for a wrap-up show. What else? Because Impact has evolved so much in such a short time, where you're hitting your stride. What do you hope to see next?
I just hope for a bigger platform, for more people to see what we're doing. I think that the shows, the creative, the athletes, the talent, the direction, the people on the roster, I think it's all home runs. So now it's just, can it be seen by more people? And I think that, through Twitch and through Impact Plus, you're getting these things. I thought that Code Red, selfishly, because I had a big hand in that show, but I thought Code Red was a great start to Impact Plus, which is, obviously we're talking about apps. You can download and subscribe to Impact Plus today. I think that's totally worth the price tag that's associated with that every month. And you get a monthly special. You get an exclusive show. Next month is a Night You Can't Miss, featuring the Great Muta. Then in July, it's a bash at the brewery in San Antonio. So I think that there's all these things that are happening. I mean, for me, if it's $7.99 a month, and I believe that's what the price point is, for me, an exclusive show every month, that alone is worth, $8 a month. And then you get everything else that comes with Impact Plus. So, I think that, with Impact, it's just continuing to be consistent. And I think that's the one thing that, as someone who didn't watch Impact Wrestling before they came here, TNA, due to my WWE, commitments and schedule there, I think that the one thing I always heard was it's just not consistent. And I think over the past 2 years that it's certainly consistency has been key.
Here's the biggest advertising point for the Impact Plus is for $7.99, $2 cheaper than WWE, you get to see all the WWE stars on your app, And it's the same material WWE has reached out to Impact for to show on Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-views. Why wouldn't you?
That's a great point. I mean, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, I mean, even AEW guys, Christopher Daniels, you can see all of these guys, before. And I think that's a big thing for wrestling fans, see the guys before they got to WWE, before they got, and I don't want to say got to, like that's the finish line, that's the goal, but before they transitioned to WWE and before they transitioned to AEW, before they transitioned to, other companies, Austin Aries just signed, I believe, with MLW, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can see, when Austin Aries became world champion, you can see all of these things, and start over as a fan.
Josh, where can people find you?
At Real Josh Mathews with 1 T on Twitter, and then just my name, Josh Mathews on Instagram.
And people can interact with you, as you said, every week at Ringside Wrestling app. That's, once again, phenomenal. Go interact with these guys. And not just you, but there are a whole host of guys funneling in here now to start their own content. You'll never know what wrestlers you'll see in the chat rooms. Go be a part of this, because I did, and I'm a fan, and I love it.
I mean, that's the thing too, right? I'm there every Thursday, 7:30 during my trivia game night. I'm in the chat room, and also wrestlers like talking to wrestling fans. As crazy as that may sound, so you may never know who's in there chatting along or just watching the chat and enjoying the trivia. So definitely a destination for sure.
Josh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Dennis.